It started on Easter morning. A small bakery, the smell of warm bread, and a stranger who would change everything. The bells of Easter morning began ringing just as the sun touched the rooftops. Their sound rolled through the narrow streets like a gentle wave, bouncing off old stone buildings and drifting toward the river where early spring flowers were beginning to bloom. Inside a small corner bakery, Elena wiped flour from her hands and leaned slightly toward the open window. She loved this moment every year. Before the crowds. Before the laughter of children and the clatter of baskets filled with painted eggs. Just the quiet city and the bells. Behind her, trays of warm bread cooled on wooden racks. Sweet lemon cakes sat in neat rows on the counter, their glaze shining in the morning light. Her grandmother moved slowly around the bakery, tying pastel ribbons to small wicker baskets. "Another Easter," the old woman said softly. Elena smiled. "Another busy day." Her grandmother glanced at her with a look Elena knew well. "You always say that like it's a complaint." "It isn't. But maybe it was a little." Elena had spent nearly her entire life in this bakery. She loved it, the smell of cinnamon and butter, the laughter of customers, the comfort of routine. Still, sometimes she wondered what it would be like to see the world beyond these streets. To travel. To wake up somewhere new. But dreams like that felt distant. Like clouds drifting across the sky. Pretty to watch. Impossible to touch. The bell above the bakery door jingled suddenly. Elena turned. A woman stepped inside. She wasn't dressed like the usual customers, who hurried in every Easter morning looking for cakes or pastries before church. Instead, she wore a pale green scarf loosely wrapped around her dark curls. A worn leather camera strap crossed her shoulder, and a travel bag hung at her side. She paused just inside the door. Her eyes moved slowly around the bakery, taking in the shelves, the flowers in the window, the trays of bread. Like she was capturing the entire moment. "Good morning," Elena said. The woman looked up and smiled. It was the kind of smile that felt warm immediately. "Good morning," she replied. Her voice was calm, soft, with the hint of an accent Elena couldn't place. "It smells amazing in here." Elena laughed a little. "That's the goal." The woman stepped closer to the counter, glancing at the pastries. "What do you recommend?" "For Easter," Elena said, thinking. She placed a warm bun on a small plate, and dusted it with powdered sugar. "This one." The woman took the plate carefully. "Thank you." Their fingers brushed briefly as the plate passed between them. It was nothing. Just a second. But Elena felt something spark, quietly inside her chest. The woman noticed it too. Elena could see it in the slight pause of her smile. She sat at a small table near the window, tasting the pastry. Her eyes widened immediately. "Oh wow." Elena laughed. "Good?" "Incredible." She finished half the bun before speaking again. "My name is Maya, by the way." "Elena. Nice to meet you." Maya gestured toward the window where spring sunlight filled the room. "I just arrived in the city yesterday. I'm working on a photography project about spring festivals." Elena nodded. "That explains the camera." Maya touched it lightly. "I travel a lot for work." There was something about the way she said it. Not bragging. Just simple truth. Elena felt curiosity tugging at her. "Where have you been?" Maya smiled. "Too many places to count." Then she tilted her head slightly. "But this city, it feels special." Elena leaned on the counter. "Give it a few days." Maya laughed. "I will." She finished the pastry and stood. Instead of leaving immediately, she hesitated by the door. Can I ask you something? Of course. I heard there's a market near the river during Easter. Lanterns, flowers, music. There is? Would you, maybe show me? Elena blinked. Normally she never left the bakery during busy mornings. But before she could answer, her grandmother spoke from behind the kitchen doorway. You should go. I travel a lot for work. There was something about the way she said it. Not bragging. Just simple truth. Elena felt curiosity tugging at her. Where have you been? Maya smiled. Too many places to count. Then she tilted her head slightly. But this city, it feels special. Elena leaned on the counter. Give it a few days. Maya laughed. I will. She finished the pastry and stood. Instead of leaving immediately, she hesitated by the door. Can I ask you something? Of course. I heard there's a market near the river during Easter. Lanterns, flowers, music. There is? Would you, maybe show me? Elena blinked. Normally she never left the bakery during busy mornings. But before she could answer, her grandmother spoke from behind the kitchen doorway. You should go. Elena turned. Grandma. I can manage the bakery. Maya looked slightly embarrassed. Oh, you don't have to. But the old woman simply waved her hand. Spring is short, she said kindly. Then she looked at Elena. And so are chances. Elena sighed. Then she grabbed her coat. All right, she said. Maya's eyes lit up. And neither of them realized yet that this small Easter morning decision would change both of their lives forever. The streets felt different once Elena stepped outside the bakery. For years she had watched people pass by the window, tourists, couples, families, but she rarely joined them. Now she walked beside Maya through the bright Easter morning crowd. Spring had painted the city in soft colors. Stalls lined the streets, overflowing with flowers, painted eggs, and baskets of pastries. The annual Easter River Market had already begun. Children darted between vendors, laughing as they carried small wicker baskets. Musicians played cheerful melodies near the fountain, while the scent of roasted almonds drifted through the air. Maya lifted her camera. Click. 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 She moved slowly through the crowd, capturing tiny moments, an elderly couple sharing a pastry, a little girl proudly holding a painted egg, a street performer juggling bright ribbons. You see everything, Elena said. Maya lowered the camera. That's the job. But you notice things most people walk past. Maya shrugged slightly. Beautiful moments are everywhere. People just move too fast to see them. They reached the river where the market grew even larger. Lanterns hung above the walkway, swaying gently in the breeze. Vendors sold flower crowns and handmade candles. Boats drifted lazily along the water, their reflections glittering in the sunlight. Maya paused and looked around slowly. This place, she said softly. It's beautiful during Easter. No, Maya said. It's beautiful because you're showing it to me. Elena felt warmth rise to her cheeks. She wasn't used to compliments. But something about Maya made them feel sincere rather than awkward. They continued walking along the river path, talking about everything and nothing, favorite foods, childhood memories, places Maya had traveled. For the first time in a long while, Elena forgot about the bakery. She forgot about routines. She forgot about the quiet life she had always assumed she would live. Instead, she simply walked beside someone who made the world feel larger and brighter. The afternoon sunlight turned golden as the market slowly calmed. Elena sat on a stone wall overlooking the river while Maya adjusted her camera settings nearby. You've taken hundreds of photos today, Elena said. Occupational hazard. Do you ever get tired of it? Maya shook her head. Never. She lifted the camera again. But this time, she didn't point it toward the crowd. She pointed it at Elena. Click. Elena blinked. Wait, did you just take a picture of me? Maya smiled innocently. Maybe. When? Just now. Elena laughed nervously. I probably looked ridiculous. Maya walked closer and turned the camera screen toward her. The photograph showed Elena sitting in the sunlight, wind lifting a strand of her hair, the river sparkling behind her. She looked relaxed. Happy. She forgot about the quiet life she had always assumed she would live. Instead, she simply walked beside someone who made the world feel larger and brighter. Different from the version of herself she usually saw in mirrors. That's not ridiculous, Maya said softly. That's beautiful. Elena stared at the image for a long moment. No one had ever captured her like that before. Not as the bakery girl. Not as someone ordinary. But as someone worth noticing. Can I keep it? Maya asked. Elena looked up. Why? Maya hesitated. Then she answered honestly. Because I like remembering moments that matter. Elena felt her heart skip slightly. She nodded. Okay. As evening approached, the riverbank began to glow. Volunteers lit hundreds of floating lanterns for the Easter celebration. Soon the water shimmered with tiny flames drifting slowly downstream. Elena and Maya sat together on the stone steps leading down to the river. The city felt softer at night. Quieter. Maya watched the lanterns float away. In some places, she said, people make wishes before releasing lanterns. Elena smiled. What would you wish for? Maya thought about it for a moment. Then she turned slightly toward Elena. I'm not sure yet. And you? Elena followed a lantern drifting across the water. I guess I'd wish for something unexpected. Like what? Something that changes everything. Maya's hand rested beside hers on the stone step. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then Elena slowly slid her fingers closer. Their hands touched. Neither pulled away. Instead, Maya gently intertwined their fingers. Elena's heart pounded so loudly she thought the whole river could hear it. They sat like that in silence while lanterns floated past them. And the moment felt fragile. Important. Like the beginning of something neither of them had planned. As evening approached, the riverbank began to glow. Volunteers lit hundreds of floating lanterns for the Easter celebration. Soon the water shimmered with tiny flames drifting slowly downstream. Elena and Maya sat together on the stone steps leading down to the river. The city felt softer at night. Quieter. Maya watched the lanterns float away. In some places, she said, people make wishes before releasing lanterns. Elena smiled. What would you wish for? Maya thought about it for a moment. Then she turned slightly toward Elena. I'm not sure yet. And you? Elena followed a lantern drifting across the water. I guess I'd wish for something unexpected. Like what? Something that changes everything. Maya's hand rested beside hers on the stone step. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then Elena slowly slid her fingers closer. Their hands touched. Neither pulled away. Instead, Maya gently intertwined their fingers. Elena's heart pounded so loudly she thought the whole river could hear it. They sat like that in silence while lanterns floated past them. And the moment felt fragile. Important. Like the beginning of something neither of them had planned. A few days later, Maya stood inside the bakery again. Her travel bag rested near the door. Elena already knew what that meant. "You're leaving today," she said quietly. Maya nodded. "My next assignment starts tomorrow." The bakery felt strangely empty, even though it was full of customers. Elena tried to smile. "Well, thank you for visiting our city." Maya stepped closer. "That's all you're going to say?" Elena hesitated. What else could she say? They had only known each other for 2 weeks. But somehow those 2 weeks had become the brightest part of her year. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "Open it later," she said. "After I leave." Elena took it slowly. "Okay." Maya hesitated near the door. Then she leaned forward and kissed Elena gently on the cheek. "Happy Easter," she whispered. And then she walked out. That evening, Elena finally opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. The same one Maya had taken at the river. But on the back were handwritten words. "This isn't goodbye. It's just the beginning." Letters began arriving every few weeks. Postcards from Lisbon, Barcelona, and Florence filled a small wooden box Elena kept beneath the bakery counter. Each letter contained stories. A street musician playing violin at midnight. A hidden cafe overlooking the sea. A photograph Maya had taken of some beautiful moment in another country. But every letter ended the same way. "I wish you were here." Elena started writing back. At first the letters were simple. Updates about the bakery. Stories about customers. Descriptions of the changing seasons along the river. But gradually the letters grew more personal. She told Maya about her dreams of traveling someday. About the fear that had always kept her rooted in one place. About how the bakery felt both comforting and confining. And Maya answered every letter. Distance separated them. But their words slowly built a bridge between two hearts living in different cities. Autumn arrived quietly. Leaves turned gold along the river paths. Elena was carrying a tray of fresh pastries to the front counter when the bakery bell rang again. She didn't look up at first. "Welcome," she called automatically. Then a familiar voice answered. "Hi, Elena." Her hands froze. Slowly, she turned. Maya stood near the door. Her hair was slightly longer. Her travel bag rested beside her feet. But her smile was exactly the same. Elena blinked in disbelief. "You're back." Maya laughed softly. "Surprise." Elena set the tray down quickly and walked toward her. "I thought you were still traveling." "I was." "What happened?" Maya hesitated. Then she said something simple. "I missed you too much." Elena didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Instead, she stepped forward and hugged her. For a moment the bakery disappeared. The world shrank to two people standing very close together. And the feeling that distance hadn't changed what they had started by the river. Not every reunion is perfect. The evening after Maya returned, dark clouds gathered above the city. Wind rattled the bakery windows as rain began falling against the streets. Elena and Maya walked along the river path, the same place where lanterns had once floated peacefully. Now the water moved fast and restless beneath the storm. Maya leaned against the railing. "I can't stay forever," she admitted. Elena felt the words like cold rain. "I know. My work still takes me around the world. And my life is here." Lightning flashed briefly across the sky. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Finally Elena asked quietly. "What happens to us?" Maya looked at the rushing river. "I don't know. The truth hung between them like thunder waiting to break. Love had found them unexpectedly. But love didn't always make decisions easy. The storm passed during the night. Morning sunlight returned to the city streets. Elena opened the bakery early, but her thoughts were far away. She knew something had to change. Love couldn't live forever in uncertainty. Late that afternoon she walked to the river again. Maya was already there, sitting on the stone steps where they had first watched the lanterns together. "You came," Maya said softly. Elena sat beside her. "I've been thinking." "So have I." Elena looked out across the calm water. "You once asked what I would wish for if I released a lantern." Maya nodded. "You said something unexpected." "Well," Elena said, "I think I found it." She turned toward Maya. "I want to see the world." Maya blinked. "With me?" Elena smiled nervously. "Yes." Maya's face lit with quiet amazement. "Are you serious?" "I've spent my whole life in one place," Elena said. "Maybe it's time I take a chance." Maya reached for her hand. "Then we'll take it together." The river sparkled in the afternoon sun. And for the first time, Elena realized something important. Sometimes love doesn't ask you to stay where you are. Sometimes it asks you to step into a larger world. Together. The airport felt enormous to Elena. She had never traveled farther than the neighboring towns. Now she stood inside the bright terminal clutching a small suitcase, while planes roared somewhere beyond the glass walls. Beside her, Maya looked calm. "You're doing great," Maya said gently. "I haven't even boarded the plane yet," Elena replied nervously. Maya laughed. "This is the easy part." Elena glanced at the departure board. Their destination glowed on the screen. Paris. Her heart beat faster. For years, she had watched travelers come through the bakery doors, wondering what their lives looked like beyond the city. Now she was becoming one of them. When the boarding announcement finally came, Maya reached for her hand. "Ready?" Elena took a breath. Then she smiled. "Ready." Hours later, as the plane lifted through the clouds, Elena looked down at the shrinking lights of home. Instead of fear, she felt excitement. For the first time in her life, the world was opening in front of her. And Maya was beside her. Paris at night felt like a dream. Street lamps reflected across wet cobblestones. Cafes buzzed with quiet conversation, and soft jazz drifting from open windows. Maya guided Elena through narrow streets, until they reached a small plaza filled with musicians. A violinist played beneath a glowing streetlight, while a guitarist accompanied him. Elena spun slowly, absorbing everything. "I can't believe this place is real." Maya lifted her camera. Click. "You're doing that again," Elena said, laughing. "What?" "Taking pictures when I'm not ready." "You're always ready." They sat at a small outdoor cafe near midnight. Music floated through the square while people danced casually beneath the lights. Elena leaned her head lightly against Maya's shoulder. "I used to think the bakery was my whole world," she said quietly. "And now? Now it feels like the beginning of one." Maya kissed her hair gently. "Good. Because the night still held so many songs." Weeks passed as they traveled together. But eventually Maya's work schedule returned. Assignments in different cities. Different countries. Different timelines. One morning in Berlin, Maya sat across from Elena at breakfast with a thoughtful expression. "I have to go to Iceland next month for a project." Elena nodded slowly. "Without me?" "It's a remote shoot. Only a small crew." The old feeling returned. Distance. The same thing that had once separated them before. Elena tried to stay calm. We'll manage. Maya reached across the table. Hey. I know that look. What look? The one where you pretend you're fine, but start building emotional walls. Elena sighed. Long distance is hard. Yes, Maya said honestly. But we've already survived it once. Elena squeezed her hand. And we'll survive it again. Months later, Elena discovered something unexpected. They were staying in a small apartment, while Maya organized her photographs from recent travels. Hundreds of images covered the computer screen. Mountains. Cities. Crowded markets. Stormy coastlines. Then Elena noticed a folder titled E. Curious, she opened it. Inside were dozens of photographs of her. Not posed. Not planned. Moments captured quietly over time. Elena laughing at a cafe. Watching the ocean. Sleeping on a train. Standing by the river during their first trip home. Maya walked into the room and froze. Oh? You've been secretly photographing me this whole time, Elena said. Maya rubbed the back of her neck awkwardly. Occupational habit. How many are there? A lot. Elena scrolled through the images. Why? Maya hesitated. Then she answered honestly. Because you're the most important story I've ever photographed. Elena looked up slowly. Her heart felt full in a way words couldn't fully explain. Chapter 15, A Promise. 1 year after they first met, Elena and Maya returned to the river where everything had begun. Spring had come again. Lanterns floated across the water during the annual *** Easter celebration. They sat on the same stone steps. The same quiet moment. But everything about their lives had changed. Elena leaned against Maya's shoulder. Do you remember the first night we sat here? Maya smiled. You wished for something unexpected. And I got it. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a small lantern. Make another wish, she said. Turned toward Maya. I don't need another wish. Why not? Because I already found what I was hoping for. Maya brushed a strand of hair from Elena's face. And what's that? Elena smiled softly. A future with you. Together they placed the lantern in the water. It drifted slowly downstream, joining the others. A small glowing promise carried by the river. Spring returned once again, carrying the soft warmth of renewal across the river city. Maya stood near the window of their small apartment, sunlight spilling across, dozens of printed photographs spread across the table. Mountains. Cities. Markets. Storms. And Elena. Elena walked in with 2 cups of coffee and paused. You've been staring at those photos for an hour. Maya smiled thoughtfully. I've been thinking. That's usually dangerous. Maya laughed and picked up one photograph, the very first picture she had ever taken of Elena by the river. You remember when I told you you were the most important story I'd ever photographed? Elena nodded. You were serious. I still am. Maya spread several photos across the table. I want to create a full exhibition. Elena raised an eyebrow. About travel. About love. Maya pointed to the photos. Our story. How it began during ** Easter. How it grew across cities. Elena's eyes widened slightly. You want to show people, us? Yes. Elena hesitated. Then slowly smiled. That sounds terrifying. And beautiful, Maya added. Elena leaned down and kissed her. Then let's do it. Dreams rarely come easily. Within weeks Maya was buried in planning. Gallery meetings. Sponsors. Editing thousands of photographs. Deadlines grew closer. Nights grew longer. Sometimes Elena woke to find Maya still working at her desk long after midnight. One evening Elena gently closed Maya's laptop. "You need sleep." "I need time," Maya sighed. Elena sat beside her. "You're chasing something amazing. But you're exhausting yourself." Maya rubbed her eyes. "I just don't want to fail." "You won't." "How do you know?" Elena smiled softly. "Because the story is real." She took Maya's hands. And real things always reach people. For the first time in weeks, Maya relaxed. Love wasn't just about adventure. Sometimes it was about holding someone steady while they chased their biggest dream. The exhibition was scheduled to debut in New York City. The gallery stood in a bustling street filled with bright lights and endless noise. For Elena, the city felt overwhelming. Crowds everywhere. Taxi horns echoing through narrow avenues. Nothing like the quiet river where their story had begun. The pressure of the exhibition weighed heavily on Maya. Small arguments began appearing between them. Tiny misunderstandings. Late one evening they walked through Central Park, both exhausted. "You've barely spoken to me all day," Elena said quietly. "I've been preparing the exhibition," Maya replied. "I know. But it feels like you disappeared." Maya sighed. "This show is important." "I know that too." Silence fell between them. The city lights flickered through the trees. Finally Maya stopped walking. "I'm scared." Elena looked at her. "Of what?" "That if this fails, everything we built will feel smaller somehow." Elena stepped closer. "That's not how love works." She gently touched Maya's face. "Your work didn't create us. We created us." The tension slowly melted. Sometimes love survived storms simply by reminding two people why they started. Opening night arrived. The gallery filled quickly with visitors. Rows of photographs lined the walls. Their first meeting in the bakery. The river market. Lanterns floating during Easter. Travel across cities like Paris, Berlin, and Lisbon. People moved slowly from image to image, whispering about the story unfolding through photographs. At the end of the gallery hung the final photograph. A new one. Taken secretly, just weeks earlier. It showed Elena standing by the river at sunset, wind lifting her hair as she looked toward the water. Beneath it was a small caption. "The moment I realized love had become home." Elena stared at the image. "You never showed me this one." Maya smiled nervously. "I was saving it." "For what?" "For the ending." Elena turned toward her. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "It's perfect." 1 year later, they returned to the river again. Spring had painted the city in soft pink blossoms. Lanterns floated across the water during the annual Easter celebration. Everything looked almost exactly the same as the night they first sat together there. But their lives had changed completely. Elena squeezed Maya's hand. "Do you ever think about how strange it is?" "What?" "That everything started because you walked into a bakery for breakfast." Maya laughed softly. "Best breakfast of my life." They watched a lantern drift slowly across the river. Elena reached into her pocket. "I have something for you." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" Elena pulled out a small silver ring. "Not worried. Just surprised." Maya's eyes widened. "Elena. You once told me our story was the most important thing you'd ever photographed? Maya nodded slowly. It is. Then let's keep writing it. The river lights reflected in Maya's eyes. Yes. They kissed softly as lanterns floated into the distance. And somewhere between the glowing water and the quiet spring air, Elena realized something beautiful. The best stories don't end. They simply keep unfolding. Together.